I've been debating on doing a video like this for quite some time. For more reasons than not, I don't know exactly if this is going to land the way that I want it to, but I will do my best to not miss a beat in this message. If you are not religious or spiritual or anything of the sorts, or at least have a background in these things, this message is going to not resonate with you at all. So you might as well just move on to the next video. With that being said, the title of this video is Open Your Mind and Not Your Legs. And the reason I titled this is because there is a pleasure and a joy that is greater than any physical, fleshly pleasure that we could ever possibly imagine. A lot of the times people just don't even know it's there. Or people don't even know we're here, really. You see, if we can transcend physical temptations, there is a place in our psychology, in our minds, and in our souls that you understand that at some point in time, this body is not going to be around anymore, right? This body is not going to be here. And eventually, in your meditations, you will reach an understanding how your soul is eternal. Your soul really will live on in some way. This is not your final form, ladies and gentlemen. Now, before I go any further and you guys start talking about like, oh, Thaddeus is kind of off his rocker there, open your mind, okay? Just bear with me. And this is really going to be a message for anybody that is feeling like they're in a spiritual frenzy or they're kind of going crazy or anything like that. You're not going crazy. You're not. You just live in a world that is vastly, vastly weird. Like, we live in a society where drag queen story time is being encouraged to preschoolers, to kindergartners, and all this stuff. We live in a time where people are openly perverse in their thoughts and in how they behave. We live in a time where greed is more valuable than virtue. And the only reason that it's more valuable, quote unquote, is because if you do have virtue, it's almost like you are being punished for having such virtues. And you also live in a world, in a society where there are so many different kinds of people that are trying to make sure that you do not reach your full potential. So yeah, you're not crazy. But you have to understand, ladies and gentlemen, that we live in a simulation of consciousness. All that we are and all that we do is but a simulation of consciousness itself. And as you walk down the street, when you go to the grocery store, when you go to the coffee shop, when you go wherever you go, when you go on vacation even, go to visit a new place, you're going to see people that are not really people. They're not people. They are basically NPCs. It is like they are stuck in a video game of the Matrix that they don't even know that they're stuck in. And you can shake them to be awake. You can ring the alarms as loud as you want. But at the end of the day, if they don't wake up, they don't wake up. And some people in this life are buried so deeply into the darkness of their own hearts and minds, and they have so many walls up that it's going to take years and years and years of therapy or even if they want to go through these things to change who they are, it's going to take years of transformation. But a lot of these people don't even know how to evaluate themselves. They don't really know how to really educate themselves on themselves. They don't know how to think about themselves objectively and in logic terms and regards in the long term. They don't know how to play the long game. They don't know how to take accountability. They are soulless zombies that act as if life is not a test. Everything that you do is a test. Everything that you want to achieve is a test. Everything in life is a test, and you are supposed to you are not supposed to ask questions. You are not supposed to ask meaningful questions about the nature of reality. You are not supposed to, if you're watching this video, you're not supposed to ask about what's really going on in the world. You're not supposed to stand up for who you are and what you believe. You're not supposed to believe in yourself. These are the things that the Matrix in society teaches us. They don't teach us that freedom and love is only authentic and free when it comes to providing a base of morality and virtue, and it gives grace. That is what freedom and authentic love is really all about. You were not meant to be a vessel of creation in this world. You're not supposed to be a vessel of the ancestral father. For all the men out there, and for all the women out there, you are not supposed to be a vessel of the ancestral mother. But here we are. Whenever you get to a point in your life where people are acting really strange around you, and people have been acting weird around me. Like when I was moving the other day, I had people coming up to me just like acting like they know me. When I was putting my stuff in my car, and people were just acting as if they knew who I was. And I understand that on semen retention, and also when you just meditate and when you are truly pure and innocent in your head, you can come off as like a celebrity to some people, or have that like celebrity energy, so to speak. And so people want to be around you because, well, you are the energetic, fulfilled, peaceful person. Who doesn't want to be around that? So, like, that was kind of the point and where I was at, and I was just really excited. And I didn't really show it though, because I'm fairly stoic whenever I'm outside of my domain, physical domain anyway. I'm always in my domain. But people were coming up to me and asking me, like, "Oh, where are you moving to? Where are you going now?" It's like, who the fuck are you? And why are you asking me where I'm going to? And then they're wanting to know why I'm leaving. Like, what? Well, why are you leaving? Because it's really none of your business. But I'm not being... And then somebody else, that was another thing. Somebody else said, "Are you being forced to move out?" It's like, where are all these people coming from? And where are they? How are they watching me? And how do they know where I'm going? It's like, I don't know. It's just super weird vibes out there recently. And I've been getting a lot more stares. You know, somebody mentioned in the comments in one of my previous videos that it's like, even if you're just, specifically with semen retention, it's like you're just sitting there breathing and they look at you. Some people look at you as if you're doing something wrong, and it's like, I'm completely minding my own business. And that's how it's been a lot at the gym recently. A lot of people are staring at me, and I don't know exactly, like I have a pretty good idea, but a lot of people have been staring at me, and it's like, I don't need to ask you any questions because I already see exactly who you are. And I've accepted that you are who you are, and we're not going to fit in this puzzle that you think we need to fit in. This piece does not go with that piece. Done. But they don't want to accept that. And it's like the reckless people that know they're reckless. My presence is just bothering them so much. But one thing I want to make sure to let you guys know about is that you should remember to ask who sent you. If you're ever being spiritually attacked, ask who sent you, because you'll get an answer, and it may not be the answer that you expect. I remember last year I was in a 5K race, and there was this guy at the beginning of the race, and I don't know exactly what he was on, but he just kept talking shit to me while we were going, and I was just, again, minding my own business. And I was about 2 or 3 weeks into retention at the time, so things were starting to change a lot, like more rapidly than usual. And I started to notice that change in how people were treating me, and some men were really respecting of me, and some men were really like this guy, just talking a lot of shit. And so all I could say to him was, we'll see. We'll see at the end. Because what else are you going to say? Like, I don't know you. I'm not going to talk shit to you. But we'll let the results speak for themselves. And so, anyway, after the race, he still kept talking shit. He found me after the race to talk more shit. And I just was so baffled by this guy. And then as I was leaving, an old guy came over to me and he was like, "Hey, I have a question for you." And I said, "Well, I have a fucking answer." And he looked at me like, whoa. And because I lost my temper in that moment, and I was so angry. And so I was like, where are these people coming from? And so I just kept going, really. And the point is that people just start acting weird when you start to level up, right? And spiritually, they may not understand this. Like those people, that guy that was talking shit, and then the old guy that came to ask me a question, I guarantee they were not human beings. They may have a human body, but they were not human beings. They were possessed by some demonic forces, and they were trying to distract me. Which leads me to another topic that I want to talk about in regards to the soul. And I also want to bring up a couple verses from the Bible here. The first is from Numbers 21, 8 and 9. And this is referring to Kundalini Awakening. And if anybody is not aware of the Kundalini Awakening, essentially, again, open your mind, not your legs for this one. This is going to be... This whole video is just a giant truth bomb, really. That's kind of the goal here, is to just... Here's the truth bomb. If it resonates, it resonates. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Do with it what you will. So the verse here is what I believe is a reference to the Kundalini Awakening. And so this is where Moses was commanded by the Lord to make something. I'll just read the verse here. It says, "And the Lord said unto Moses, Make thee a fiery serpent, and set it upon a pole. And it shall come to pass that everyone that is bitten, when he looketh upon it, shall live. And Moses made a serpent of brass, and put it on a pole. And it came to pass that if a serpent had bitten any man, when he beheld the serpent of brass, he lived." Now, what I believe is this is a reference to the Kundalini Awakening. My chakras and my Kundalini experiences started 4 years ago or so. And I believe I've mentioned this in a video from a long time ago, probably about almost a year ago, but in one of these instances, the really big dream that I had that really activated my whole Kundalini experience was a dream where I had this dream that a sage wearing a feather crown and a feather necklace and he had a grass skirt and wasn't wearing a shirt or anything, and he was barefoot. He was like a very old shaman guy, and he acted kind of like Rafiki from Lion King. And it was like we were in this beautiful white space, and there was a golden brick road that was on this path it was the path that I was on. And he told me that I had to go there to get to here. And then the whole scene transformed, and I saw the universe as bubbles of time. And in each bubble of time, I could poke my head in and then experience a simulation of that consciousness as if the bubble was the consciousness. And time was very relative in the bubbles. So when I woke up from the dream, my third eye, my heart chakra, and my solar plexus was like burning. It was like this burning purification of pure love. And I don't know how else to describe it. It sounds kind of cheesy, but that's really what it was. And so I felt as though my soul had finally like caught up to my body. And I looked in the mirror and I completely saw a different man. I saw a completely different version of who I was and who I am. And it was very startling. It was because like in those experiences, I didn't really have, I could talk to one person about it, but in hindsight, it was the wrong person to talk to. And I'm not talking to them anymore. Haven't for a couple years. But they weren't exactly who I thought they were. Which leads me to the second verse that I want to talk about in the Bible. And this is on seeking the law and the testimony in Isaiah 8:19 through 22. It says, "And when they shall say unto you, Seek unto them that have familiar spirits, and unto wizards that peep and that mutter, should not a people seek unto their God? For the living to the dead? To the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them, and they shall pass through it, hardly bestead and hungry. And it shall come to pass when they shall be hungry, and they shall fret themselves, and curse their king and their God, and look upward. And they shall look unto the earth, and behold trouble and darkness, dimness of anguish, and they shall be driven to darkness." So basically, this is saying don't trust mediums and don't trust people that are like witches or warlocks or anything like that. I placed my trust in a medium. And granted, they they asked me for access to my my birthplace and my name, my full name, so that they can access my Akashic records. Now, I'm not sure if anybody here is familiar with Akashic records or the idea of Akashic records. But again, this is where you guys are going to be like, "Whoa, Thaddeus! All right, let's not go too far." It's like, well, you gotta go a little bit far sometimes. You gotta go off the deep edge to see and test the limit sometimes. So, if nobody's heard of the Akashic records, basically it's a ideology or a theology that there's basically a spiritual library. And Sadhguru, if anybody's heard of Sadhguru, he speaks of it as like a net of consciousness, where anybody can access this net if they get deep enough into the spiritual practices that they have. I access my Akashic records, so to speak. I don't actually call it Akashic records. I call it the spiritual library because I had a vision that God showed me a golden library where I could have any book that I wanted, but the books that I chose were going to directly influence my future in a certain way, and the ones that I chose in the past were going to influence my present in a certain way. And obviously that kind of like makes sense, right? Like how you experience your past is going to shape your present, and how you aim in your future is going to dictate where you go, right? But think of this as a spiritual library in which you have access to other people's experiences to some degree. Now, this medium told me things that she had no business. She had no fucking business telling me. And they were true. They were very true. But she was a witch, and she claimed to be a witch. After I found out about some other things that she did, like I was like, oh, she actually considers herself a witch. She's not really a medium. She considers herself a witch. And it was a very fascinating experience because I learned a lot from how people try to tell you certain things and where to actually go for truth. It's very difficult when you're on the spiritual path sometimes because you don't know which way to turn. It's like, I don't even know. John Lennon has a song called How, I think. And in the lyrics, he says, how can I go forward if I don't even know which way I'm facing? And the spiritual path is like that sometimes, where you don't even know which way is which because you don't even know which way you're actually going. You are like holding a lantern in the darkest forest that you could possibly imagine. And you have no clue how to get out of the forest. And you have no clue what monsters lie around any certain tree. And you don't really have anything but faith and prayer in God. And that's really what got me through these times where it sounds weird, but I would feel as though if it were true or not. And it was just, over time, I was like, this is dark magic, I think. This is like dark magic that I'm dealing with. I don't want to deal with this anymore. And immediately, God, who I didn't really, it wasn't like I was seeking Jesus, but Jesus just was there for me. And I found that it's the heavenly things that we need to focus on in our times of anguish and in our times of darkness. It's the Most High. It's Jesus and God's glory itself that we need to focus on in those times. And so that's exactly what I did. And I'm pleased to say that it turned out okay. But man, when I was going through it, I did feel like, there were times where it was like I feel as though nothing makes sense. And that's kind of the point to get to this place. Paradise, like Richie Havens has a song too called Paradise is a Hard Place to Find. And in the lyrics, it's like, you're hoping someone will throw you a sign. You're hoping someone will give you a line. Well, paradise is a hard place to find. It's like, yep, that's exactly what it is. And so remember that you are something so much more. And there are going to be times where you have to go through these topics and through these things that don't make a lot of sense. But I will say that the spiritual library, it does exist. And that's how I can see certain things in people sometimes. And I don't like to talk too much about it because it's a very personal thing to go through. Like, I know that it's a personal thing to go through because it's like trying to explain sugar to someone that's never tried sugar. It's like trying to explain what frosting is on a cake to somebody that doesn't even know what a cake is. So it's very challenging to talk about these things because there's not really words to describe it. And I hope I'm not going too deep or over people's heads. I want this to be as clear as possible. And feel free to ask any questions that you have in the comments. This is something that I do genuinely believe that people need to be more aware of. Everything that you do is going to be documented in the spiritual library. Every thought that you have is going to be documented in the spiritual library. When, even just saying that now, I got chills a little bit. I don't get chills very often, but it's going to be intense these next few years. These next few years are going to be very intense, and the people that are going to wake up are going to wake up, and they're going to need a route. They're going to need a truth that people are cornered in. Or people that are cornered in some aspect need a truth to get them out of their corner that maybe doesn't fit any religion or spiritual teaching. And I hope to be speaking words of truth in such a way that get people out of the corner. You are made by God. You are amazing. So with that being said, peace be with you. Till next time.